Welcome along to the Friday Axon Bulletin. As you can see, there is a trio, but it's not the trio that you're used to. That's because it's a bank holiday and we've put the bank holiday staff on. Welcome along to Kevin Graham and to Alan Morrison. How you doing, gents?
I we're fine, but before anybody starts atting us in that, we're just the ones that are no against the Jubilee. Everybody on a Celtic State of Mind is against the Jubilee, but because they've got family stuff and that on, so they're not away waving flags and putting bunting up or anything like that before Twitter goes into meltdown, Colin.
No, it's just what do you call
it? Clarify that.
We all get the day off, but I mean, it's for somebody sitting on their backside for 70 years, so I don't know. Maybe we'll all get that when we all turn 70. Kev, you're not too far away from that now, are you?
Cheers, Colin. Thank you very much.
It's been a while.
I've got a wee while. 24 years. I've got 24. Closer to 50, though.
Don't age yourself on here. It's all right. We'll get through it. Just like we've got a lot to get through today as we look back on the last 24 hours in the world of Celtic. If you are watching live on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, subscribe to the channel. As you know, we put out daily content even during this pre-season. There's still plenty to talk about. And we're going to start today, since it's a bank holiday, since it's a bit of fun, it's Friday, we're all off work. Let's have a bit of fun. We're going to start today's show with a Who Am I? So get involved in the comment section. We'll see who between Kevin and Alan can get this. There'll be 4 clues to an ex-Celtic player. First person to get it gets a virtual pint or a virtual can of Coca-Cola. So we're starting with the Who Am I ex-Celt edition. So, first clue. I made 59 appearances for Celtic, scoring 2 goals.
Sounds like a defender. Chris Morris.
No, not Chris Morris, Alan. You want to make a guess?
He played more than that, didn't he? How far are we going back, by the way? I think you're going like 18.
I'll give you a clue. It's in my lifetime. Right, so that's the second one. It's in my lifetime.
All right, okay.
Ooh,
so right. This century then, by my eyes.
Okay, you want a second clue?
Yes.
Second clue. In my career, I've played alongside...
59 appearances, 2 goals.
Alan's trying to work out something here.
Go on.
I know the stat man.
No, you're right. I'm just trying to look pensive, you know.
Marky Mac 1967 comes in to say Mark Wilson. It's not Mark Wilson. Clue number 2. In my career, I've played alongside Bruno Alves, James McLean, Harry Maguire, and Stefan Johansson.
Adam Matthews.
It's not Adam Matthews.
Oh, I thought I was serious with that one there.
Crikey. Harry Maguire played for Sheffield United. Crikey. And Hull City, actually. Don't we mentioned him? I'm going to go for Beram Kyle.
It's not Beram Kyle. Mark keeps coming in with them, saying Gary Caldwell. It's not Gary Caldwell.
No,
Paddy Laverty coming in for Shane Duffy. Shane Duffy did not make 59 appearances last season.
We'd have got relegated if he
had. Clue number 3. My wife is also a professional footballer and won the inaugural female Ballon d'Or in 2018.
Oh,
bloody hell.
Eric Shevchenko.
It's not Shevchenko.
I can't. I was going to say that wrong, but
that's a good guess.
That was Ballon d'Or. That's pointing to somebody foreign now, eh? Aye, is it?
Bloody hell.
Who did he play with in the Celtic team?
I'll get to that in a minute.
59 appearances. That means he's only been there about 2 seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
2 seasons,
so Colin says it's in his lifetime. So we've had some amount of dross actually went through our doors. That like fly by nights. Miku.
It's not Miku.
He didn't play 59 times. I'm just trying to trying to chuck out random names now.
Do you want the last clue so far?
Yes.
So your 4th clue. I have 2 caps for my country. both of which were earned whilst I was playing for Celtic. Kev looks as if he's going to throw something out there.
2 caps we've earned.
I'm going to say someone in the comment section has it right. Don't dare look, though. Don't you dare look, Kevin.
I've seen it. He had a decent game at Ibrox once. He scored at Ibrox, eh?
Mm-hmm.
He did, aye.
One of his 2 goals.
Yes. Day that we went to Ibrox to win the league under Neil Lennon in 2012, and we were 3-0 down, and we ended up pulling it back to 3-2.
Correct.
Well, that would have been Rockney that scored that goal.
That's the
Correct, Alan. The player we were looking for this afternoon is Thomas Ronye, or Rockney, or however you pronounce it. Congratulations in the chat to Adam Crockett, who got it first. What a start that is. His wife is part of the Lyon women's team, who I believe just recently won the Champions League and have won it about 5 or 6 years in a row. She's the highest record goal scorer in the Women's Champions League, and he was a bang average centre-half, so what a couple they make.
Like, for 5 minutes, he did look like he was going to be a decent centre-half. Then he just kind of got injured, and Tony Mowbray either, eh? So that's...
What's your memories of Ronye, Alan?
I'm trying to think who his wife is. It's not Liz Omer. I know she's a good player, but I think there's another player that's scored hundreds of goals for them. I think she got another one in the final against Barcelona. I did watch it, but I can't remember her name. But no, Thomas Ronye.
Sorry.
Go on.
Sorry, Alan. His wife's name is Ada Hederberg.
Hederberg, that's it. Yeah. She's like over a goal a game, I think, for Lyon. She scored. Remarkable.
Yep.
But Thomas Ronye, yeah, I mean, I just remember him being a young player that was kind of thrown into the team probably before his time. I think was my main memory of him.
Yep,
it was at that time when we were continually having. Yeah, hello. You hear me?
Yeah, I think we've got a wee bit of a delay with Alan, so we'll catch up there. Just saying, Brian Walsh coming in to say that he's now playing for Apollon Simranus. That's probably... Kev, how would you pronounce it? You're good at butchering stuff like that.
Apollon Simranus. There you go.
We'll go with that.
I'll just add in a couple of syllables and consonants and stuff like that. So,
Alan, you were saying about your time, the memories of Thomas Ronye at Celtic. In terms of stats, where would he be? Do you think he would suit in an Ange Postecoglou team?
I don't think so. I don't remember him being a silky passer of the ball. I think he was chucked into the team very young, wasn't he? I think it was a time when we continually had either centre-back or striker shortages and people had to be thrown into big games. I seem to remember him having to fill in a lot when more experienced players weren't available. I don't remember him being particularly a regular. Was he one of Mowbray's signings as well?
Yeah.
From memory.
Aye.
Yeah.
He was there for longer than 2 seasons.
Really,
Nobody comes out that well. Like, you had Thomas Rogney and probably Josh Thompson in the defeat against Ross County. Josh Thompson, man, that was one of the boys that I still believe had never seen a football in his life. And he managed to make it as a professional football player, eh? But
if I remember correctly, did Josh Thompson not score in Lennon's first game at Celtic Park when he came back against Motherwell? 2 headers.
You're a better man than me if that's the case.
I know he scored 2 goals in one game in a 2-1 win. I think it was against Motherwell. Yeah.
I see. I'll take that one. Anybody in the comment section that can prove me wrong, just stay quiet, please. But
you're giving me post-traumatic stress here, Colin. Move on.
Right, we are about to move on. It's actually a very good segue because we're going to talk about a current centre-half who seems to have picked up a bit of an injury during the international break, and that is Sweden's Karl Starfelt. He was stretchered off last night, Kev, for Sweden. Looks like he's got a bit of a hamstring injury. Although it's sort of pre-season, he's still got time to recover. It is still quite a worrying thing to see someone getting stretchered off the park like that.
It is, but then is it any really surprise? He's had a long season, a tough season as well. Postecoglou always says that the training's just as hard as the games. He then has maybe 10 days off where he's away to IB for throwing shapes with Diego Jota and that, eh? So his fitness drops and he comes back for a couple of days training camp with Sweden, gets 45 minutes. It's not really surprised that he's picked up a muscle injury, truthfully. I'm worried about quite a lot of the boys that are away at this point just because of the way that these fixtures have been hemmed in. Because, well, when you have a look at it, I think, well, like Starfelt's one there, now. There's other guys that have been away. They've had a break. They've had 5-10 days break. Then they've came back into training, playing games again. It is a worry. And we did have problems with hamstrings this season. So hopefully it's not too bad for Carl Starfelt. Hopefully it's just like back for the start of pre-season, which is 2 weeks, I think. Would he be? But he's an international player, so he would probably have got more time off anyway. But hopefully he's back for when he was due back after pre-season anyway.
Yeah, I think the guys got away to Austria the first week of July, so probably back in at Lennoxtown the week before that. But Alan, when you look at it, it's another muscle injury, another hamstring injury, and a position where we're not exactly at the minute filled with depth in the squad. I think if you're Ange and you're looking at that, you're thinking it's just a horrible time to pick up that injury. But does it open the door for someone like Stephen Welsh, who, when he comes into pre-season, knows if he hits the ground running, he could make that jersey his own?
I mean, possibly. I do feel that is an area that needs, strengthening, basically. So it'll be an area that I hope that we're looking to get somebody in who's first team ready in any case, because we're light on numbers. I don't see the depth behind the players that you mentioned there. I mean, Starfelt had a hamstring injury in November and he missed 5 games. And then after that, he pretty much all but 2 games he played and pretty much played 90 minutes, if not more, in all of them. So I was a bit surprised that they all went on holiday, then came back, and I forgot about the international games, actually. And then suddenly they're playing international football again. It just seems really, really weird. I mean, I'm not the guys deserve a holiday, of course they do, but the timing of it just seems really weird. I think this is something Celtic are going to have to address. I think there was... in terms of the number of soft muscle injuries, I mean, there was an epidemic. I mean, I do feel that the way that Kyogo was treated was awful, actually. It was obvious that he needed to be rested when he got his hamstring injury, and it ended up being far more serious than it needed to be. Turnbull had been playing every minute before he got his hamstring injury. And if you look at it, although Celtic used 40 players over the season, and actually had near 50 in the matchday squad, if you count those that had to come and sit on the bench, even though they weren't used. There was actually only a core of about 19 players that played any meaningful numbers of minutes. And actually, after the new year, when he got his recruitments in, it was a pretty tight bunch of players that Postecoglou relied upon. Now, I don't think that's sustainable, the type of training, the intensity of the training, and the style of football that we play. I think there's still a lot of work to do in terms of the squad management there, and centre-back is one of the areas that needs to be addressed. And, Welsh, I think, has probably done enough to be considered a squad player, but I don't think he'd be considered a reliable first pick against the sort of standard of opposition that we're going to be playing. So I'd be looking to strengthen in that area for sure.
Yeah, and we're going to get on to the squad depth later on in the show. We're going to bring up our tier list and see where we would put everyone ahead of the transfer window opening. But Kev, the question's coming in here from John Boy 67. So if Starfelt was injured, we need to ensure Julian stays, as he's a lot to still give us. Johnny Ryan backs that up, saying, could it mean that we hang on to Julian? Now, even a week ago, we were saying Chris Julian's Celtic career was pretty much done. He came out with his interview just before the last game of the season, basically begging to play the 90 minutes and then was left out of the squad. Do you think this changes it now if we see this injury to Carl Starfelt? Very much similar to the way that we approached pre-season last year when our only right back was Anthony Ralston.
I always thought anyway, even if we signed Cameron Carter-Vickers, that we would bring in another centre-half anyway. A left-footed ball-playing centre-half, I think that's That's like as clear as the nose on your face. That's what we actually need. I can't see that changing. We will bring in another centre half, hopefully with Cameron Carter-Vickers plus another centre half. If that's still the case, then I can't see us bringing in another one. I think they'll go with Welsh as backup. He says earlier on, Colin, that Daison Murray's not going to be fit for the start of the season anyway. Look, I don't think Welsh has let Postecoglou down. I had that wee slip against Livingston, but Postecoglou has been very, very fulsome with his praise about Stephen Welsh. I don't think it makes a difference if Christopher Jullien. I do not expect Christopher Jullien to actually kick another ball for Celtic. And even this injury to Carl Starfelt, I don't think will actually change. I still believe that we will bring in at least one centre half, possibly two, if Cameron Carter-Vickers does actually sign. I think Christopher Jullien's Celtic career is gone.
When you look at that then, Kev, if that was to be the case, so if Chris Jullien was to depart Celtic and you line up for the first game against the Austrian team, I no disrespect to him, I just don't know who it is that we line up against in the first pre-season game. Potentially your starting lineup would be, if Cameron Carter-Vickers hasn't signed, you're looking at Welsh and who else? Because you don't actually have a fit other centre-half in there. Near Beaton departed the club, he's going back to Israel. Chris Jullien, if he does depart the club. So then you're looking at who potentially someone like Boston Law to make the step up from the B team. And then this has shown how much of the depth. So you're talking about bringing in one or two centre-backs. I think at the minimum it has to be Cameron Carter-Vickers and another. I mean, Alan, when you spoke about the depth there yourself, I think that's the key position for Celtic in this transfer window. If you can get the Cameron Carter-Vickers deal done, I would look at bringing in one, if not two others, potentially one of them being a loan deal in the same sort of essence that we had Cameron Carter-Vickers last season.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. I mean, you know, if you look at what's behind the first team, you're looking at players that are now too old to play in the B team, right? And will any of them step up? And really, in terms of centre backs, I think there's only Urhoghide. Now, you know, Urhoghide wasn't signed by Postecoglou, and although he's a big athletic guy, got a lot of, sort of power and pace about him, he's not a footballer, and you know, it would be a stretch to turn him into one. So I do think
I don't know about that, Alan. I mean, sorry to interrupt you, Alan. I don't know about that. If you've ever managed to see his highlight clips of the games that he's been playing over in Belgium, I mean, whoever's managed to do that's made him look like a footballer, and that's all impressive to the video cameraman.
Yeah, I'm really, and that's fair enough. Listen, he's a young player, and if he's improved in his time in Belgium, that's credit to him. I guess my information, because I live in Sheffield, I know a lot of Sheffield Wednesday fans who've watched him a lot, and they liked him, but then he was the sort of player they felt could make a difference for them in League One, where they are, because of, you know, he had that pace and power, and the pace especially was something lacking in that league. But as a footballer, just nowhere near the technical ability needed at Celtic's level. And now, again, as I say, if he's improved in his short stint in Belgium, but last time I checked, I mean, I do follow all the loan players. I went through at the end of the season to see what their stats were and how they'd been doing, and I think he'd only played about 8 games, so it didn't sound like he'd cemented a regular place in his time there. So if that's, I don't know, if that's like, maybe I was looking at the wrong data or whatever, that's fine, but I don't see it. I just don't see it really. And then what's behind that, you're really looking at kids who are probably, you know, if they're old enough to play if they're only old enough to play in the Lowland League, they're probably not ready for Celtic first team football. So I think it's a huge gap that we've got.
I think what you've also got to realise, Colin, I'm no flapping, and the reason that I'm no flapping at an injury to Carl Starfelt is because we haven't got the qualifiers. So I'm no worried about Carl Starfelt being injured at this precise moment in time, because look, we haven't got qualifiers. Our first game's on the 31st of July, and it's a league game. We're not going to make that step up and play European football until the start of September anyway. So I'm not really worried like that will maybe start the first pre-season game with Bossum Wall and Stephen Welsh at centre half. It's a pre-season game, but we're actually it's going to be a long build. It's going to be a strange pre-season for all those fans because we haven't got that utter panic that we've got qualifiers coming up. And the pre-season can be used just to actually get these guys up to speed, get them up to fitness level and that. And that's what pre-season is going to be used. And I'm actually looking forward to this pre-season when you can actually just go, I can actually relax about this. And it's all about like the 31st of July, kicking off on the 31st of July. And it's great to have 6 weeks and just let the club do what the club need to do. So I hope Starfelt's injury isn't bad, and it's just mere precautionary. Looks worse than it actually is, but at this precise moment in time, I'm no worried one little bit. I'm sure the club are going to bring in signings. I'm actually virtually positive that Cameron Carter-Vickers plus one other is going to sign at centre half. So I'm confident with that, and I think in a couple of weeks' time that will become more and more clear.
John Boy 67 coming back in to say he's not worried either, Kev, because he rates that Big Julian, and in his opinion he'll be great cover. So difference of opinions there, but we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. It would be good to get a couple of transfers over the line. We keep hearing how close Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers are, but the last I heard, Ange Postecoglou is currently in Greece on holiday. So, I mean, even the big man deserves a couple of weeks off, Kev, eh?
Aye, he does. I mean, hopefully he's having a great holiday in Greece, and hopefully he's like having some magic Greek hospitality. I'm going to Greece in a couple of weeks actually, so I'm looking forward to that international language of football and got Postecoglou, Samaras and Giakoumakis to speak about it anyway.
That was a wee bit of a robot introduction there from Kev about his holiday to Greece, but hopefully we've got him back now. You okay there, Kev? You back? Aye. Was it the Raki that was hitting already?
Did I disappear?
You
did I disappear?
You missed a wee bit, but it's all good.
You're already gone. You're on the plane.
It was fine at my end. I'm stuck at security.
Oh, tell us about it. I've seen the queues. Looking at the other players that played international football, obviously we spoke about Cameron Carter-Vickers. Celtic wishing him good luck ahead of his game the other day against Morocco. People looking at that as if to say that Celtic are still classing him as a Celtic player. I don't know if you can read too much into that, but he got 45 minutes in the victory against Morocco. Liel Abada scoring his first goal for Israel in a 2-2 draw against Iceland. And speaking of people falling in love, it did look as though his ex-girlfriend or potentially current girlfriend, Kevin, was there to cheer him on. So hopefully that puts a smile back on the wee man's face.
That could be. It's good to see him getting a goal. And it was a typical Liel Abada goal, sneaking in at the back post. He times he runs really, really well. It's good for him to make a step up in that. I mean, it'll be interesting. He is only 20, as we keep on mentioning. And I know I'm one of them. I would like to see competition for Abada. I think we can upgrade on that side. But that's not me talking down Liel Abada. The fact is he's only 20. I'm not talking him down. I still think we can get an upgrade on that side and allow Abada to develop at a more natural pace, where I think last season he was sort of fired in and gone, well, it's either sink or swim. And how many young guys have we seen that haven't swum? He's managed to swim, but we've got to be careful with him. I mean, his stats last season, Alan, were phenomenal, absolutely unbelievable. But whether he can continue that, I'd rather get in another more experienced right winger there and let him develop at a more natural pace. I think we saw a wee bit of a tail off towards the end of last season, which is really, really understandable for the lad. But I'm so glad for him that that was his first senior cap.
I think so, yeah. I think it was a goal on his debut. Yep.
First senior cap, first goal. Well done, the lad. What a top off of the season, and hopefully his domestic situation improves as well.
The only thing that was missing from that goal, Alan, was the fact that Borna Barisic wasn't at the back post.
No.
But no,
it was actually his sixth cap. But yeah, he's come a long way in a short time. He's the one player in the Celtic squad that I think everybody underestimates the impact that he made. And I think, Kevin, you framed it in terms of the context very well, in terms of his age and the fact that he was thrown in as a starter right at the beginning of the season when it was a bit chaotic, to say the least. And I think for him to have produced the numbers that he did and made the impact that he did, speaks volumes for him. I think he's a really genuinely exciting young player. And I think if he has this season a little bit more, less pressure on him, let's say, to grow, I think that would only be a good thing. If Jota signs on again, we've effectively got, Jota, Maeda, Forrest, Abada that can probably, are quite flexible in terms of the positions they can take along that front line.
Yeah, Lanky67 coming in to say, basically when Jamesy was our winger, we brought in Paddy Robertson to push him, to push Jamesy, and it worked. Doing the same with Abada will give him more confidence to play his game, and I think that's something that we saw last season, and that can be attributed to the fact that he is still quite young, Alan, that he is going to have these games where he drifts in and out, but that's all part of his experience, and that's all part of him learning the game, and having that option that you can say, well, if he's not having a good game after 60 minutes, you can bring someone else on. We didn't really have that last season.
No, he's a player who probably a little bit like Maeda as well. He's not going to be on the ball a whole lot, and it's a bit of a stark contrast to Jota. Jota is a ball magnet, and he's on the ball a lot. There's a lot of things that he's doing, and he's what I call a volume guy, right? He creates a lot of chances. He has a lot of shots at goal because he's on the ball a lot. Abada's more clinical, I would say. He doesn't get on the ball much, but when he does, if you get him on the ball in the right positions, he's lethal. And that's he's a different type of player in that sense, and maybe some that you think, well, he's not touched the ball for 20 minutes, but if you get the ball to him anywhere central near the goal, he's a great finisher. And he's also, his assist record was tremendous as well. And I think he improved as the season went on. What I noticed was that he was taking players on a lot more. He was using raw pace to try to blast players a lot more, that perhaps earlier in the season he didn't have the confidence to do that. So listen, this is a young player that's, I think, going to really, really improve and be a big player hopefully for Celtic. My only concern with him really is that, he's lost his kind of mentor, and Beaton was kind of, looking after him and kind of mentoring him, I suppose, and helping him adjust. He's had a year in Scotland now, so hopefully he's settled.
Yeah, let's hope that we can see the best out of Liel Abada next season. Leading the line for Greece last night was Georgios Giakoumakis. He didn't score, but Greece won 1-0 over Northern Ireland. Again, he is going to be that kind of player, Giakoumakis. He's either going to come on and score a hat-trick, or he's just going to lead the line and bring everybody else into play, Kev. But he's just such a fantastic asset to have as part of this squad.
Yes, and I've been on this podcast many occasions, and he did really surprise me. I mean, I remember the first time that I saw him in the flesh was that game against Livingston that he ended up missing the penalty. And long before he missed the penalty, I was going, who signed this guy? This boy is at bio level. I mean, I did call him a big coup, actually, at half-time, and the guys from my supporters club keep on reminding me, says, no, remember you called him a big coup? I went, aye, I did. And I'll die on that hill that I did call him a big coup, and he's proved me wrong, and I'm absolutely glad that he's proved me wrong. He's the type of guy, like Alan says, he might not do much, but he'll pop up. I mean, I think Celtic Twitter this week gave you all his goals in a minute, and it's like all the goals that he had scored this season. And I forgot how good his goal against Hearts was, the James Forrest Cup back in the first time shot. He's got a natural instinct to a finisher. I think he's going to miss quite a few. I think we're going to need to put. I mean, you actually see that he does take quite a few chances, but the big fella's fine now. He's getting the recognition for grace that he never had before. I mean, what you've got to look at it now. He seems to have been a late developer, but that's 2 seasons in a row he's been the top goal scorer in his league. He's a guy that's got momentum behind him now, and hopefully that momentum continues and he goes to the next level, which is we need him to do it in Europe.
As Alan says, the stats tell the story, and that's the case. He top goal scorer in the Dutch league, top goal scorer in the Scottish league, and I'm sure given time at the international level he'll bang in the goals as well. 2 others that were involved yesterday, we'll start with Daison Meda. We just spoke about him earlier. He played for 60 odd minutes for Japan, against, I'm trying to remember who they were playing, Paraguay, in a 4-1 victory. He played 45 minutes. Kyogo was an unused substitute. It's a bit of a stressful time, Kev, when you look at the guys that are travelling all around the world at the minute and they're sitting on the bench or they're not getting involved. You're just thinking, just let these guys have a season. I mean, especially the Japanese boys who have played a full season, came to Celtic, played another full season, and then they're into the summer and they've got to go and play international football as well.
I know, it's strange, and this comes down to the fact that we play too much football. There's too many games that these guys didn't get a decent.
Yeah, Alan, we're just kind of losing Kev here, but as I was saying, it's a lot of football for these guys to be playing. We'll get Kev to come out and come back in, but it's a lot of football, especially even guys like Callum McGregor for Scotland the other day. A lot of minutes in the legs, and you're just hoping that with the fact that we don't have the qualifiers this summer, we could just get these guys to take some time off. But international football just keeps getting in the way.
It does, and I'm kind of, again, I kind of not realised the volume of international games there are over this break with all these Nations League matches as well. For me, it's absolutely crucial that the guys, especially the ones that came over from Japan, who had a full season and have pretty much been playing continuously, that they get a proper rest, proper recovery, and they get a proper pre-season behind them. It's absolutely crucial. Otherwise, we're just going to see more and more injuries. So I think there's a couple of things that need to happen. One is that that rest and everyone kind of coming along in the squad at the same level, rather than having people at different levels of fitness and different levels of fatigue.
Yep.
And that, I think that's going to be absolutely crucial going forward. And the second thing is we've talked about, where we started on this podcast, which is around the whole sort of depth of the squad. We can't be relying on 19 players to play 60, 65 games in a season. We're going to need 25 first-team players to share the load amongst, because a lot of these guys just had minute after minute after minute and never got a rest. And you could see the relief from Postecoglou at the end of the season when the league title was over the line. It was just sheer relief, because I think he was probably thinking, I don't know how long this can continue, playing the same guys over and over and over and over again. And players like McGregor, Maeda, Kyogo, they need a proper rest and need a proper pre-season. Yeah,
absolutely. And then even guys like Callum McGregor, I mean, that must have been his 3,000th game in the last 12 months that he's played. Yeah. You've had a full season, he had the Euros, he's had another full season. He's only picked up that injury where he missed as little games as possible to come back. He's still wearing the mask. You just look at it and you think there has to be a way that these players can be better looked after with international football. I mean, Scotland potentially, if they'd beaten Ukraine the other day, would have been playing 4 games in the space of 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And that just doesn't seem tenable. And then you look at it and you're saying they're now going to introduce the Copa America teams into the Nations League going forward in a couple of years' time. We saw the finalissima, or I couldn't pronounce it properly, between Italy and Argentina the other day, and that's the warm-up for it. I think there's a way, we've got to find a way to cut back international football. I thought that was what the Nations League was introduced for, but it just feels as if we're playing more and more games now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the notion of it was that you essentially replaced friendlies with the Nations League, so every game then became meaningful, which I kind of get at one level, but actually what that does is it just increases the intensity of those games and probably increases the pressure on the managers and the coaches to play the best players, not to experiment as much, because they don't have now those friendlies to do that, because now these Nations League performances are going to get used for seeding purposes and for where you end up in World Cup groups and all that sort of thing. So it becomes really important then at that stage. And then, if you do well in the Nations League, suddenly you get second chances when it comes to qualification for major tournaments. So these games take on what previously could have been a little 45-minute run out, and let's try a lot of fringe players now become, it's another must-win game. So all that's to the workload in that sense. So the international football calendar, they were supposed to be trying to unify it across the globe, but of course there's still differences and still different number of countries, obviously in each confederation, therefore a different number of matches and so on and so forth. So it's never going to be perfect in that sense. But for Celtic, all you can do is work with what you've got, and as I say, that care and that rest and that recovery and that proper fitness for pre-season, that we've just got to do the best we can with that, but not take any chances like we did last season. Because if you start taking chances, then you start losing players for long periods.
Yeah, we're going to go and take a look at the squad depth in a second and do our own tier list. We're just waiting on Kev to rejoin us if he can. He's just joining us in a second. But some news coming out of the camp that players like Cairn McInroy, who have departed the club after being there for a long period of time, the midfielder who really wasn't given a chance. I think he's been out and had plenty of loan spells. It just shows you that we are starting to clear out a bit of the squad. Kevin Graham, you're back. How are you?
I don't know what's happening there. I think I'm maybe internet gremlins, but obviously I'm not in my usual spot, because there's kids bailing about the house in the stairs. So I'm trying to get some peace and quiet to do this. So, maybe because they're all watching Netflix and stuff like that down the stairs as well might be the problem. But hey, hopefully I'm better now in another room.
Paddy Laverty coming in here, Alan, saying, don't want to frighten you, but a big dark shadow keeps appearing behind you. I think you've got some company in the room, don't you?
Well, that was daughter getting a lunch, so yes.
And Kev, somebody says that your internet was better in the kitchen, so
definitely that is definitely better in the kitchen.
So what we're going to do now is we are going to do a tier list of the players that played for Celtic last year. We're going to break it down into 5 categories, and we're going to start with the players who, first of all, played enough games to qualify for a league title medal, and then we'll take a look at some of the fringe players as well. And if we were Ange Postecoglou, this is what we would do. So I'm just going to bring it up now. Let's hope this works. We can all see it, yeah?
Incredible.
So we have 5 tiers here. We have key player, first team squad rotation option, offer for loan and transfer listed. So we've done it in the transfer, in the football manager style. And we do want you guys in the comment section to join in as well and tell us where we've got it right and where we've got it wrong. So the first player we're going to start with, guys, is Joe Hart. Now, for me, Joe Hart, this season, been a fantastic player, been a fantastic signing, value for money, and I would put him straight in for next season as a key player. Who's going to argue with me?
I wouldn't argue, but I do think we need to be planning, succession planning, let's call it, right? So that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see us looking to bring in a younger, more agile, faster goalkeeper, good with her feet, good at good at taking crosses, good at being able to get the ball forward quickly. So yeah, absolutely not disagree with that. But my only caveat is we should be planning for the next step.
Kev?
I don't disagree with that whatsoever. I agree with what Alan says. Unless there is a better option with the ball at his feet appears on our radar, then no, Joe Hart's a key player for us. I don't think the money that we spent for Joe Hart, and I think we've got more glaring areas in the team now we need improvement rather than goalkeeper. I think the goalkeeper will maybe get looked at over the next few seasons, but no this summer.
So, Kev, I'm going to get you to run the comment sections. I can't actually see it while I'm doing this tier list. But our next player up is Greg Taylor. Now, Greg Taylor, obviously someone who came in for a bit of criticism at the start of the season. Probably, if you'd asked at the start of the season, a lot of people would have him in as a squad rotation option. But I think going forward for next season, I would definitely have him in the first team squad. I think he's someone that we may look to strengthen in that position. but certainly his performances this season have shown his development, and if he isn't first choice, he should be in and around there. Kev, what do you think?
First team squad. I think we've all signed a left back. I think Greg Taylor's been fantastic for us, especially towards the tail end of the year. But there is an argument, there is a bit of a tail off when you look at Juranovic on the other side. I think Taylor's done well. There's still a question mark over Europe about Greg Taylor because he's been involved in the games against like Ferencváros and Copenhagen and stuff like that. So it's a lot of people still need a lot of convincing about Greg Taylor. But first team squad definitely. Cracking domestic option. Absolutely fantastic domestic option for me.
Alan, where would you have him?
Yep. So I wouldn't frame what I have to say about Taylor as criticism, because I think he's got an absolutely fantastic attitude. He's got a great willingness to want to learn. I think he has improved. I think he has adapted. My issue with Taylor has been his limitations are just insurmountable in terms of his athleticism, his speed, his recovery pace. As a Celtic fullback, you're attacking a lot. He doesn't recover quick enough back into position. He doesn't have enough raw athleticism, I think, to compete at the highest level. And I just don't see those issues being resolved, right? So I just think that's insurmountable. That's not to say I've got a massive admiration for him in terms of how I think he has learned, he has adapted, and he's got an absolutely fantastic attitude. And he's contributed hugely to Celtic last season. So first team squad, I'd be happy with that, but I would be as a priority looking for a first choice left back.
If we'd done this tier list 12 months ago, Alan, do you think he would be further down?
Yeah, possibly squad rotation, maybe. Yeah.
It does show you what 12 months can do for a player's career, especially someone still quite as young as Greg as well. Next up, we have the injured Carl Starfelt. For me, again, I think he would be in the first team squad. I think he's shown this season his performances have been of the highest level at times. He's learned from his mistakes, but I do think it is an area where we could strengthen even further going forward. Alan, I'll let you have a first bite at this one. First team squad, where would you put him?
So I've written extensively about Starfelt, and again, it's quite similar to Taylor in that I admire the fact that he's come in, he was thrown into the team, he made a lot of mistakes. It looked like it was going to be a disaster, frankly. And in fact, on a huddle breakdown, James and I had pretty much given up on him by Christmas. Actually, pretty much were willing to call it, that this was never going to work. I think he's improved since then, and I think huge credit to him for that. He's improved in the sense of he's cut out mistakes. The way I would characterise that is that I think he's comfortable with the system, he's comfortable with the partner, and almost some of the ways that Postecoglou's had the team playing is kind of mitigated some of the issues. Which again, he's not a tall centre back. He gambles. He gambles on trying to win balls he can't win. He gets drawn under the ball too easily. He's a little bit rash, and he loses a lot of aerial balls. So I don't think these things are going to fundamentally change about him. I think he's again great attitude. He has improved. You've got to give him huge credit for that. But I would have him as for me, it would be Carter Vickers +1 with Starfelt as a backup.
Kev, we just saw the comment coming in there saying Starfelt would be a key player for Lanky 67. Would you agree with him?
If we sign Cameron Carter-Vickers and a left-footed ball player centre-half, Starfelt for me is squad rotation option. And he is the one that has brought him down there. If we sign Cameron Carter-Vickers and another centre-half. So
when we look at it, obviously, a first-team squad player for me would be someone that's in the 19 every week. And I think for me, Starfelt would be in the 19 every week. Although we're looking at, depending on who the other player is that you bring in to play alongside them. So I can see where you're coming from there. But I think if you asked the question back in December, like Alan was saying, a lot of people would have him in squad rotation or even transfer listed because he didn't have a great start to the season. But he's definitely developed, and to the point where I think first team squad probably justifies where he is right now. So The fact that me and Alan's went first team squad, we're going to overrule you, Kev. It's 2-1. It's a simple majority. It's first past the post here. But we'll probably have some better arguments down the line for some players.
We should ask the Queen what she thinks.
Ah, come on, Alan. We're going to get booted out any more of this. Now, I'm bringing this one in. It's Cameron Carter-Vickers. We haven't signed him yet, but if we were able to get him back for next season, he's absolutely a key player for me.
Oh, without doubt. I think me and JP spoke about this last Thursday. I mean, imagine we hadn't got Cameron Carter-Vickers, how this season might have looked. He is a massive key player for us.
The fact that we got the deal done with an hour to go in the transfer window as well, you just think, what could have been?
I know he's a key player. He's one that we really want. It's one that we really want to actually get over the line and get him. I liked his comments during the week. I did like his comments during the week. If he signs again, he's a key player for us. I mean, he reads the game so well, and phenomenal.
Yeah, key player.
No arguments, is there?
No, none. Key player.
No, we're good with that one. This one might cause a couple of arguments. Anthony Ralston. Now, for me, at the start of last season, he'd have been down here and probably away down there. He's done very well over the last 12 months, and I'm sort of in between here. I'm between squad rotation and first team squad, and I think, giving him the benefit of the doubt, I'll put him in first team squad. But I could make an argument for him to be a squad rotation option, Kev.
I mean, if you're talking about a 19, if you're talking about a 19 first team squad, then he is in the first team squad. And this is not meant to sound bad, but that's by default, because you've got Juranovic and Anthony Ralston. And he also probably does deserve to be in the first team squad after the season that he's had this season. Mm-hmm. He does probably deserve the opportunity to go again, even though in the last couple of games you did see it when Juranovic got injured and Ralston was there. Every team targeted Ralston. Every team went down that side. So obviously that's a tactic when Juranovic is not there. But Anthony Ralston in certain games, especially domestically, will give us everything, and he deserves to be in that first team squad for at least another season.
Yeah, Alan, it's not a position I think Ange is going to go out and try and strengthen this summer. So by default, as Kev says, Anthony Ralston, and by his performances as well, finds himself in the first team squad.
Yeah, I mean, hugely admirable effort. I mean, what an improvement, what a development he's had over the season. I mean, it's just incredible, actually. And if he can continue to develop at that stage, you might be looking at quite a special player. But again, the only thing that kind of lets him down a little bit is just that lack of pace again, which we mentioned with Taylor, which again it's not insurmountable, but it becomes a problem as you scale up to better standard of opposition. So he's absolutely earned the right to be in that squad.
I think this next player could cause some divisions. Stephen Welsh, I'd put him out for loan this season. I think there's a player there. I think he just needs more first team football. And to be perfectly honest, I would have did it at the start of last season. I'd have put him out for loan, Kev. I don't think he's going to get the game time next season to have him as a squad rotation option. And if he's going to develop his career, I think he has to go out on loan.
I'm going to put him as a squad rotation option, but I think he's too old to go out on loan. I think he is too old to go out on loan. He will be, if the squad's built the way that I want the squad to get built, like Cameron Carter-Vickers, left-footed centre-half, Starfelt and Stephen Welsh. Welsh will get game time because of the number of games that we're actually going to play in a short period of time this season. But I understand where you're looking at, that he might not get the game time he needs for the development. He might not get the game time that he needs for himself. And if that is going through his head, then you might actually find he might want to move on. But at the moment, I would put him in squad rotation. What
about yourself, Alan? You've got the casting vote here.
Yeah, no, I think it's a key season for Welsh. You know, he did very well, actually, when he came in. The thing that stood out for me about him was his passing ability out from the back. My concerns about him were similar to Starfelt. He's not as rash as Starfelt, but he's not aerially dominant. He's not particularly tall, centre back again. So I think we've got too much of a muchness there. Having said that, he's not done anything wrong per se, but I think I suspect he'll be a squad rotation option, is what I'm thinking. But I do wonder, this could, if he doesn't break out this season, what the future holds.
So we move Stephen Welsh up. I have been argued against. So we move on to our number 88, Josip Juranovic. For me, key player every day of the week. What a fantastic addition at right back. He can take penalties. He can lead the line. For me, he could potentially be a future captain of this club. Kev.
You're coming to me first. Yeah. I think there's some... I mean, I love Juranovic, but I don't know if I love him as a player or love him as a person yet. I think there's a wee bit of a blurred line here, that he's such a great character. You can tell that he's fantastic in the dressing room. He's brilliant when he moves into that midfield position. He's absolutely fantastic. But I haven't really seen too much of him defending right enough. The reason that he probably goes into the key player category for me is because he made such an impact last season. A bit like Cameron Carter-Vickers, he made an impact when he came in, and as you say, he's a fantastic bubbly wee character, and he takes that onto the pitch, and he's got a bit of bamminess about him as well, as you've seen a couple of times against Rangers as well, and I do like that. Key player on the pitch, also a key player in the dressing room, judging by his Instagram lives.
Alan, he's that kind of personality that came to the club and understood what it meant from the word go. I mean, obviously he had the holy goalie speaking in his ear before he came over, but he is someone who just captures what it is to play for Celtic, and that passion comes through when you're watching him on the park. And to be honest, his performances this season, I can't really think of a bad one off the top of my head.
So what is interesting about Juranovic and Ralston is, I think we get almost our sort of cognitive biases get we think of Ralston as being this kid that we think, oh, he looks like a brickie, and he was been at Celtic for ages and he's never going to make it. And we think of Juranovic, played at a World Cup with Croatia, glamorous personality and what have you. If you actually look at the data, performance data, you would be astonished at how similar, how close they are in terms of their underlying performances, to such an extent that I'm going to go against the grain here, and I'm going to say that Juranovic goes in the first team squad with Ralston, and the two of them fight it out, because I don't think there's as much between them as people think. And I need to write about this probably a little bit more explicitly, but you'd be amazed. Some things Ralston's better than Juranovic. I think Juranovic's recovery pace is probably a lot better, which is speaks directly to Ralston's weakness. But otherwise, if you look at passing, in terms of breaking lines, passing out from the back, if you look at getting into the box and creating chances, Ralston's well ahead of Juranovic actually. So I think they're different players, they've got different strengths and weaknesses, but it isn't clear cut to me that one is that much better than the other. So for me, let them fight it out, death match.
That's what I was saying, Alan. I don't know if I've maybe been blinded by the personality over performance. I don't know if there's a bit of myth about Juranovic because of his personality. So it's quite interesting to actually hear you actually say that.
I'd be interested to see the article when it does come out, Alan. So you'll have to let us know. So Kev, you get your last chance. Are you going to change your mind? Is he a key player? Is he a first team squad? Where are you going to put him?
He's my man in the match every week. He's a key player.
He's a key player. He's not going anywhere. Sorry, Alan.
He's my Matt O'Reilly. Kevin, he's my Matt O'Reilly. Yeah.
Next up, we have number 14, David Turnbull. I think I'm going to put him in here just now in the squad rotation option, and the reason I'm going to put him in there is I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's got a lot to offer the team. But when you look at that midfield next season, I think obviously we just spoke about Alan. Obviously, your man of the match all the time, Matt O'Reilly. We've seen the performances of Rio Hatate and Callum McGregor. There's other players that could potentially be in there as well. And I just don't know if he's going to get that amount of game time. And I think it's still a position that we may strengthen in the summer. So for me, he's between the first team squad and squad rotation. If you could get David Turnbull, who was in probably the first half of this season, I would have him in here. I've just got concerns over his injuries going forward, that we could see him more as a squad rotation option next season. Alan, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's probably a little harsh. I think he's a fantastically talented player, very creative. Again, a theme that you've starting to repeat myself a little bit through as we go through the squad. I think where the deficit is in the squad, as I keep talking about athleticism. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you look at let's look at an extreme example. If you look at a team like Liverpool, right, clearly one of the best teams in Europe, and their midfield, whatever configuration they put out in midfield, you've got players that can go box to box. We've got great engines, but also physically strong as well as technically very good. And I know these are really expensive players, but if you look at teams that Celtic can emulate, if you look at like a Leipzig or an Atalanta or a Salzburg even, that's the kind of profile of young players that they shop for. They've got an innate athleticism about them, a pace, a power, as well as the technical ability. And then, how do they develop, sort of thing. And then again, I come back to Turnbull. It's probably where he's lacking slightly. He's probably more of a number 10 trying to play a number 8 role in that sense. But I think he did a decent fist of it before he got injured. And I do think, his ability on the ball, I think is terrific in terms of his ability to play, passes through the lines, his creative powers and his shooting as well. And he's also, probably elite actually level in terms of set piece delivery. So I would probably have him in the first team squad, to be honest. He's still a young player. He's still got a bit of development in him. But I do think the midfield in general just needs that more power and pace injected into it.
Kev, cast and vote. I mean, for me, I would have him in either of the two, and I could argue for both of them.
For me, David Turnbull is a first-team squad player. Reason being, I can't see us signing another playmaker to replace Tom Rogic with Matt O'Reilly being there. I see Turnbull and O'Reilly battling for that number 10 spot. If Turnbull could add a wee bit of pace, then we've got a hellier player. But it'll be decent to see what Ange can do with him during the summer. So I think he's in the first team squad, mate. I really do.
I'm not going to argue against that. I just don't know if we look for someone in the transfer window where he'll finish up in options. So it's not a dig at David Turnbull. I'm a big David Turnbull fan. I just didn't know where he would end up. James McCarthy, let's make this one quick. Argue against me.
Squad rotation based on the size of his contract, he'll still be there.
Alan?
That's my argument.
I know, listen, he's got a very specific skill set. I don't think it's the skill set that Celtic set up to make the best out of. I don't see him fitting into the way Celtic plays. So for me, for all parties concerned, it'd be better probably to move him on.
So would you have him on loan or would you transfer list him?
Well,
does he have something
age,
to offer to Celtic in the future?
I don't think so, for me.
Sorry, Kev.
That's fine. As I say, I still believe that he'll be in squad rotation because of the size of his contract.
I wouldn't be surprised either.
No, I think you're right. In terms of are we saying what will happen versus what we'd like to happen? I think you're right, Kevin. But I think that would be my preference.
Do I need to say any more? Number 17, Jota, goes in as a key player. Kev?
No argument.
No. Alan?
No argument.
No, I think he's a special young player. For someone so young with his skill set and the position he plays, to be so influential in games and to be so fearless is quite rare. I think he's a rare talent.
Yeah. Number 19, Mikey Johnson. He's someone who has divided opinion of the Celtic fan base over the last couple of years. He's someone who's also suffered with a number of injuries. I still think there's a player in there, and for me, I would have him on loan next season. Alan, what would you do with?
So I think that's. Yeah, listen, I try to be an evidence-based guy, right? I'll go with what I see. My evidence says to me, I don't know that he's got the body and to play professional football at the level Celtic play. That's my honest opinion. That he just breaks down continually. I think he has got some talent. His underlying numbers when he does play are very good. I think loan would be generous. Otherwise, I think you cut your losses.
Kev?
Transfer listed. Unfortunately, I agree with Alan. His time's passed. His time's just gone, and it's just been a series of unfortunate incidences for the lad. And he'll move on and he will have a decent career elsewhere, but unfortunately, it's just not going to be the Celtic.
We are approaching the hour mark. If you boys are all right to stay on for another 10 minutes, we'll go through the rest of the squad. So starting with Alan's favourite, number 33, Matt O'Reilly. I'll put him here as a key player because I know that's exactly what Alan would do. I wouldn't disagree. I think he's a very, very exquisite footballer who is only getting better as he develops. I think Fulham's loss is our gain, and the fact that they could have kept on to him and probably made quite a bit of money off him. But the fact that he's shown he just wants to play football week in, week out, his attitude, for me, is a fantastic plus. And I think he's going to be someone who is going to get bums off seats next season with his play. Kev? By
default, he's got to be a key player because Tom Rogic is left and he's the most natural replacement. It'll be interesting to see how he makes a step up to European football, something that he's never actually experienced with before. I think he could add a bit mobility. I don't think he's the quickest in the world, but he was Tom. But he's a key player by default because Tom Rogic is not there.
Alan, anything to add to that on the stats side?
I was actually thinking I would have him as a first team squad player, and the reason for that is because he's a young player, and I don't know that I would put that pressure on him. I still think there's a lot of development in him. I think he's absolutely fantastic. I'd like to see him play as many minutes as possible, but also wouldn't want him to have it all on his shoulders. Having said that, he does look like a player and a person who, the more responsibility you give him, the more he seems to step up. So, I think he will be a key player for Celtic. I just wouldn't want to put that pressure on him at this stage, which is why I was thinking of having him as a first team squad player.
Kev, any change? No, we keep him.
No. As I say, I do think he's a key player by default at this precise moment in time.
Okay, so we keep him in as a key player. Next up, number 41, Rio Hatate. For me, I'd have him in as a first team squad player. I think he is kind of similar to what Alan just said there about Matt O'Reilly. I think he's still got a lot of development to do. What we've seen at times with him is he could be absolutely quality. And then we've also seen how he can be when he's maybe lacking a bit of fitness. And I just wonder, whilst that development's still coming in as part of the game, as part of adapting to playing here in Scotland, I'd definitely have him in the first team squad. But I think you'll maybe see a bit less of him than what we did in the second half of last season, Kev.
First team squad, definitely. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of rotation in the team next season. So much so that us trying to do a pre-match, let's guess your team is going to be a laugh at sometimes what Postecoglou's going to do. Definite first team squad. I think he's got a lot to offer. If he manages to regain the eye form, like the goals and the dynamic performances his first couple of games, then he could end up being a key player for us. But at the moment, first team squad.
Alan, definitely someone who's got a lot of development ahead of him. Early signs are good. Where would you have him in this list?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that in terms of first team squad. I think, people look at him and think, well, he's 24. But again, you need to come back to Japanese players that go through the university system. They hit professional football later than they would in many other countries. The kid's got, he's got less than 100 professional matches under his belt. He's only really had 2 full seasons of professional football, and one of those was never ending because he went straight from Kawasaki to Celtic, and you could see that physically he was struggling towards the end of the season. So I think we need to look after him. I think we need to nurture him. I think there's a really good player in there, but I wouldn't want him again to be relied upon every week in, week out.
He stays in there as a first team squad player. Next up, we have Captain Cal.
He is, but all I would say is he's now going to be 29, right? The number of minutes that he's racking up 3 more games for Scotland potentially before we even start pre-season training. I think we need to, again, like Hart, what I want to see is some succession planning and perhaps some of the burden being taken off of him as well. But absolutely a key player.
Kevin, key player every day of the week.
Key player every day of the week, but I agree with Alan. We've got to have some form of rotation in there for him.
Speaking of rotation, number 49, James Forrest. I think next season he's a squad rotation option. And I think we've seen quite a bit of that already this season. I think it's a position that we'll probably try and strengthen in the summer. Obviously, he's signed his new deal. But performances this season, I think that's where I would place him. Kev, he kind of drifted in and out of the first team squad last year, but his performances have certainly went downhill, haven't they?
Unless he has a really exceptional pre-season under his belt, then yeah, he's got to be in the squad rotation. And if you're having a look at the evidence that we've got just now under Postecoglou and his performances towards the end of the season there, then you've got to say that he'll be a squad rotation player for now to the end of his contract.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, Alan.
It's not a bad thing, but that's just...
We were speaking earlier about not having that option in the squad. Having someone like James Forrest who's got the experience of being there before, it's good to have.
No, absolutely. I mean, to me, I don't think there's any. I think it's perfectly possible to have in your head 2 thoughts at the same time. One of which is James Forrest has been absolutely fantastic for Celtic, and one of the, I think he will go down as one of the most decorated players at the club, and will be talked about for years and decades to come. Also, at the same time, recognising he's got nearly 500 games under his belt. He's a winger that relies on raw pace. He's 30 years old, and time waits for no person. And natural age-based regression, to use the horrible phrase, it catches up with everybody at some point. So, I think squad rotation is where he's at in his career if he's playing at Celtic's level, but he's still got some significant minutes to contribute to the season.
Next up, we have Double G, Georgios Giacomakis. For me, I'm going to place him in key player. I think maybe there'll be a couple arguments against that, but I think when you look at his development this year, I think how well he's led the line for Celtic, how important his goals have been, basically 19 touches for 17 goals. Kevin, I just think it's having someone like that, whether he's playing week in or week out, he's still a key player because he is that different option up front.
He is that different option, but push comes to shove, Kyogo's your first choice striker. So for me, he's in the first team squad. And I know what you're saying. He's a different option in that, but the key player in the front three is Kyogo, centre forward option anyway. So I would put him first team squad.
What about yourself, Alan?
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, he's won me over. I mean, when I first saw him, I thought, visions of Amido Baldi, kind of, in terms of his touch and the way that he tried to kind of link up the play. But actually, he's a really smart piece of recruitment because the way that he operates under Postecoglou's style of play, he's there to be in the box between the sticks, and his instincts, his movement over 5 yards, his finishing ability is just phenomenal when used properly. He's a tremendous asset, but I think he's a difference maker, and therefore he's not someone that you throw in starting against Bayern Munich. You have him as an option to come off the bench. So
he goes into the first team squad. I'm sorry, Georges, I tried to get you up there. Number 8, Kyogo Furuhashi, has to be said, key player. He's a quality player. I've not seen someone of his quality at Celtic, Kev, for a number of years. And if it wasn't for his injury, you just wonder how many goals he would have got this year.
I know you do, and it's when you actually think back, we were without him for 4 months. You were without your best player, and Ange, the guy who epitomises Ange Postecoglou's style for 4 months. He's a key player next season. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what he can do next season.
Alan, I don't think anybody would argue Kyogo is your star man. He's a key player.
Yeah, absolutely. So can I just respond to, because this is one of the great features of online, is that, I appear on quite a few podcasts and I have a blog and what have you, and I say a lot of things. And people tend to fixate on one thing you said and then remember, and it follows you around for the rest of your life. So I did say that at the time, but as I say, I'm an evidence-based person. That was the evidence of my eyes at the time. I'm happy to change my opinion on that because the evidence has changed my opinion. I think he's fantastic, Giakoumakis. He's won me over completely, and I absolutely can see that why he's been bought, because his strengths completely fit the system of play. So happy to change my mind on that one. No problem at all.
We all get proven wrong with certain things. A certain Mr. Anthony Ralston definitely proved me wrong this year. Kevin, with you've had a couple as well.
I know nothing about football. I admit that. So I just wing this.
We only have a couple of players left that got a medal this year. First one being number 11, Leila Bada. I think for me, he's a first-team squad player with the ability to become a key player as he develops. Alan, you spoke about his development. He's still quite young, only 20. I think at the minute he's a first-team squad player, but over the years he could become key to Celtic.
Yeah, I think I'd have him in there with with probably O'Reilly and to an extent Hatates being young players that you see are going to get a lot of minutes, but I wouldn't give them the pressure of being the ones that you have to hang your hat on time and time again, which is what a key player really is. So yeah, I'm happy with him there.
Kev, any arguments?
No arguments. I think we discussed Abada earlier on. I think he needs more time to develop naturally, and that he'll get that in the first team squad.
One player left that got a medal, and that is Daison Meda. Again, I think he's a first team squad player. He's a very different option. He's someone that we've not really had at the team for, well, I don't even think I can remember someone similar to him playing for Celtic. The way that he chases everything down, the way that he leads the high press, Alan, it just totally suits Ange Postecoglou's football to a T.
He does. I mean, he is what you see. There's no frills. There's things that you cannot expect him to do. He's not going to create like Jota does. He's not going to try and beat a player with skill. He's not going to be that heavily involved in intricate build-up play. He's really about pulling defenders out of position. He's got great finishing ability, and he's obviously got this incredible work rate and pressing ability. So he's a player, again, who's been brought in because he's got a very specific skill set that matches perfectly the style of play. So that great recruitment. I don't think he's ever going to be your sort of number one go-to guy in that sense, but absolutely is going to be integral to the squad.
Kev?
He is a key player because he sums up Ange Postecoglou's style of football. But then I think there's some elements of his game where there could be room for improvement, and whether he can actually improve that is up for debate, which leads me to say that I don't think he is a key player. He is a first-team squad player. Squad. But I do understand to see the folk in the comments going like that about, but he's a key player in Ange Postecoglou's system. There's just something I think lacking technically for me that would make him a key player.
So when you take a look at that, we've got 7 key players up there. We've got Joe Hart, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Josip Juranovic, Jota, Matt O'Reilly, Callum McGregor and Kyogo. It does suggest that there is space there to bring in 4 key players to make your first 11, as you always want to develop and make your squad even better. And then you look at the bench there potentially, and you're sitting there with 8 players plus another goalkeeper, and you're thinking that's a fantastic bench if that's who you had to turn to as well. And obviously we talk about squad depth. Now there is a list of players here, and I'm just going to quickly get one. I just want a quick answer off you all so that we can close this out. For where you would put these players into your squad, or maybe not in the squad for next season. Starting with number 2, Chris Julian. Kev?
Transfer.
Alan?
Yeah, I think he's gone. Again, follow the evidence. You didn't play him. Exactly.
Number 5, Liam Scales. Kev?
Loan.
Alan?
Generous, but for the sake of Enda, I'll say loan.
I would have maybe had him still in the squad, but hey ho. Number 12 is Malasoro. Kevin?
Transfer.
Alan?
Yeah, again, gone.
We're getting rid of the deadwood here very quickly. 21, Yusuke Ideguchi. For me, I think he'll be a squad rotation option that could potentially become a first-team player next season. Kevin?
Key.
Wow. I mean, we could stay here till 2 o'clock and you can tell us why.
We haven't got a beat on. He's been brought in as a more defensive-minded midfielder. I get a feeling that Postecoglou's tied him back and he's going to be a key man for us this season. There you go. There's the hill that I'm going to die on next season. There it is. I'm on that cross, lads.
Right, so Alan, where are we putting him?
I like Kevin's bravado on that one, but again, I've no evidence that he can contribute at that level. So squad rotation, I think, is probably where he will be.
Now, if you'd said first team, we'd have had to have moved them up. Unfortunately, Kev, it's just yourself that's dying on that hill. Number 10, Albion Ayeti. For me, I still think there's a player there, but I just don't think we're going to get it at Celtic. I'll probably have to put him on the transfer list. Kev?
I think there's a player there. I think he can suit Ange Postecoglou. I think he can suit Ange Postecoglou's style. I would put him as squad rotation.
Yeah,
Alan?
I think he's gone. I mean, he tried to play the way Postecoglou wanted him to play, and his hamstring exploded.
I transfer list. I just forget what I just said. Just put him down there.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I thought he had great games against Betis, and he's shown some glimpses, but I just don't think his body's built to be an Ange Postecoglou player, unfortunately. Bolly.
It's gone. No way back for many reasons.
Wenger bust the Ibiza.
And some of the loan players that are returning, starting with number 30, Liam Shaw. For me, I think maybe another
back out on loan.
And Alan?
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. Again, he's another one that I know because he came from Sheffield Wednesday. Very, very raw. He does have the athleticism and the power, but he, again, like Urogidi, his technical abilities just aren't, I don't think, yet up to scratch. Didn't cement a place in Motherwell team either, which in the Motherwell team that I thought would be made for him, actually, in terms of that box-to-box midfield role. So I'm not optimistic, but I'm willing to give him the benefit of another loan.
Someone who else has been out on loan quite frequently, Scott Robertson. I think if he's not a squad rotation option, his career at Celtic could potentially be over, Kev.
He'll get pre-season to show what he can do. If they think there's potential, I can see him going back out on loan.
Do you think that would be a third loan spell? I think he's 22 now. That would be his third year.
Is he 22?
I think he is. Maybe I'm wrong.
I can't go back and say Stephen Welsh is too old for a loan if he's 22. This is a make or break season for him. A right make or break. It's a big pre-season. Squad rotation now then.
Sorry, Kev. He's only 20.
I'll put him on loan.
So
yeah, I mean, I think he's had I think you'd characterise as a successful loan at Crewe, which is, whatever you might think about that, it's a hard place to play in that league. So I think I agree with you. I think your rationale was right. Have a look at him, but potentially another loan. So
we will move Scott out on loan. I think it has to go to a higher level. I'd like to see if we could try and loan him to a championship team, not a Scottish championship team, but an English championship team. I think that would be a real test for him. I look at someone like the boy that was at Motherwell, Alan Campbell, and how successful he was at Luton last season. And you just wonder if Scott Robertson could do something like that.
That might be a bit of a step up, to be fair, but certainly in League One, I could see him doing well in League One.
Number 54, Adam Montgomery. He was probably a squad rotation option beforehand. I think at the minute, until we sign another left back, that's where he fits into the squad, Kev.
Aberdeen didn't really quite work out for him. Again, a bit like Scott Robertson, I can see him getting another pre-season and they make the decision on him towards the end of August.
Yeah, I think at the minute he's really the only, when you look at Scales there as well, is the only other left backs at the club. He's obviously coming back from a pretty serious injury, Alan, but he was quite highly thought of and was at one point, I believe, it was Kieran Devlin in the Athletics says that he was looked at as the potential long-term position at left back.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 19, right? And, he was thrown in a bit last season, and he was moved around different positions. So I don't want to be critical of the kid, but to me, he's a kid, and I would probably put him out on loan.
On loan, so we'll put him back into the loan market. And finally, Ozaze Uragide. Kevin, I'll let you start.
Transfer listed. He will end up in Belgium permanently.
Alan?
Yeah, I don't think it fits the profile of the players that we need. Unfortunately, he's going to be best in a back three. We don't play a back three, and as I say, in terms of we expect the centre backs to play out from the back, and I don't think that's his skill set. So I like him, but unfortunately, I don't think it'll work out.
So this is our final list. I do realise I've missed out Scott Bain in here, and Barkas, but I think Barkas would be transfer listed. Scott Bain would probably be a squad rotation option. I think when you look at this, it's key. We've got 7 really key players. We've got a decent depth in the first team squad, and you're looking at that squad rotation and thinking we haven't quite got it there. So this is where this summer transfer window, I think, will be very key, and it'll be interesting to see who we bring in. I
think it's very, very clear that there's room for improvement in the squad. And that was shown all last season. There is definitely room for improvement in that squad, even though some of the guys that we've got there have been utterly phenomenal for us.
Yeah. I think we're a good 6, if not 7 players actually short of a really strong first team squad. That's the reality.
And then you look at it and you're thinking that's what Ange said he's looking to bring in this summer, and the recruitment that he's had so far, it's very difficult to argue against that he won't be able to bring in 5 or 6 of those this window, and then see what we can strengthen again in January. But yeah, definitely an interesting exercise to see where we stand as a team going into the summer. The other ones that are missing are probably either out on loan with no terms of future, or guys like Karamoko Dembele, who we believe has now departed the club. So that's for the.
Is there been an official list of released players?
It's not came out yet, but by looking at it, his contract was up on the 31st of May. So be interested to see how it goes. I know Celtic they still have the right to compensation on that, Alan, because of the way that he's been at Celtic for 10 plus years. So because he's under 23, still get compensation rights for him. So that might be a bit of a extended conversation with wherever he ends up this summer.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
So yeah, a big thank you to everyone who has taken part in today's show. For those that are audio listeners, we do apologise that you've not been able to see the graphic that's been in front of us, but we'll get Paul to post up what our final table was, and you can let us know on social media what you think. I also want to take the chance at the minute just to thank everyone who sent some very kind messages to me over the last couple of days. For anyone that wasn't aware, I got engaged at the weekend, and I've had some great messages from Axom listeners and readers. So thank you very much for the very kind messages. It meant a lot to me. But yeah, whatever is left of your holiday Friday, we hope you enjoy it. Just don't go to any street parties or anything like that, because you'll not find any of us at them. We'll be back on Monday for the Monday Bulletin. Until then, I hope you all have a great weekend. It's been myself, Colin, Kevin, and Alan Morrison taking you through this Friday lunchtime bulletin. Until then, take care, stay safe, and a massive hail hail.
See you later, lads.